when Han Li was at the mid-nascent soul stage, and first unleashed the five-child concentric demon. This was everyone's reaction. Zibei, eager for success, was in the Void Spirit Hall. The masters discovered Han Li possessed the Zushin Cauldron, and joined forces with several nascent soul cultivators from the Minor Expanse Palace to hunt him. Fortunately, Han Li thwarted all their schemes one by one, and even demonstrated his ability to counterattack. He immediately unleashed the five-child concentric demon, pointing into the void towards the distant, green-robed middle-aged man. With a soft cry, he commanded, "Go." The five-child concentric demon, you actually killed the Qian Elder Demon. The green-robed man had been watching with confusion when the five demons first appeared. At this moment, he finally recognized the origin of the five demons, and his face instantly paled with terror. One must know, news of the Kunmu Mountain sealing had spread far and wide. Although the Minor Expanse Palace was located in a remote area, they also knew that in that incident, not only did the so-called number 1 family of Great Jin, the Yi family, vanish without a trace, but the number of nascent soul cultivators who died tragically in Kunmu Mountain was a rarity not seen in 1,000 years. In particular, the Qian Elder Demon, the great elder of the Yin Luo sect, had also fallen in Kunmu Mountain. This was a major event that shook the entire Great Jin. After all, in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, late-stage nascent soul cultivators, unless their lifespan was exhausted, were practically immortal beings, and this very green-robed middle-aged man happened to have seen the Qian Elder Demon once in the past, witnessing the terrifying power of his five demons' technique against his enemies. Since even the Qian Elder Demon had died at this person's hands, didn't that mean this opponent was far more terrifying than even a late-stage nascent soul cultivator? The green-robed man, knowing full well the power of the five-child demon, now truly felt immense fear gripping his heart. Without a second thought, he took the bronze gong in his hand and abruptly threw it into the air. With a flip of his other palm, a pale yellow jade mallet appeared. He struck at the bronze gong from a distance. With a bang, waves of bright yellow light radiated from the bronze gong, suddenly appeared around the middle-aged man from Green Mountain. In the next moment, these yellow lights instantly condensed and transformed, forming over 100 yellow flying daggers the size of willow leaves. Each one glittered with a cold light, looking as thin and sharp as a cicada's wing. Then, a series of dense clanging sounds rang out one after another. These flying daggers immediately began to spin and dance, and a dense net of blades instantly materialized, protecting the middle-aged man from Green Mountain within it. But he was still not at ease. He then flicked both his sleeves, and two black sickles shot out from within them, transforming into two streaks of blackish-red light. They formed another defensive barrier behind the net of blades. He had completely taken on the posture of a turtle pulling in its head. It seemed the appearance of the five-child demon had completely crushed the middle-aged man's fighting spirit. All he wanted was to save his own skin from my demon's attack. Amid sinister wailing sounds, the five ghost heads instantly arrived before the middle-aged man from Green Mountain. The five ghostly mouths opened wide in unison, and a grayish-white demonic energy immediately submerged him. Immediately after, with a blur, the five ghost heads also rushed into the demonic energy. The sounds of explosions and ghostly laughter rose up from within the churning demonic energy, and Han Li gave a command to the five-child demon. He didn't even spare it another glance. With the divine power of the five demons, it could easily stand against a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, so dealing with a mid-stage one was naturally not a problem. On the other side were Bai Mengqian and Han Li. When the other man saw Han Li's five-child demon, his expression was certainly no better than the middle-aged man from Green Mountains. Even though they had never seen the five-child demon before, upon seeing the ferocious appearance of the five demons, and hearing the middle-aged man from Green Mountain cry out its name, how could they not immediately know the origin of these demonic beings? As for the other man, although he was confident in his own abilities and not afraid of the five demons, he was unfortunately at a critical moment in casting a spell, and was completely unable to react in any other way. As for Bai Mengqian, she was utterly shocked. The movements of her hands paused. The divine ability she was halfway through casting came to an abrupt halt. It seemed this woman had realized that ordinary divine abilities posed no threat to Han Li at all. It would only be a waste of her own spiritual power. But Han Li didn't give the woman even a moment to catch her breath. Without a word, he immediately formed a hand seal. His figure blurred, and unexpectedly conjured four identical, ethereal figures. They split into two groups of two and shot towards Bai Mengqian. and Master Han Li. Meanwhile, Han Li's true body remained in place, but with a shake of his elegant robe, he put away the Zushin Ding floating before him. As the tricolored light leaves flashed, a feather fin slid into his other hand. With a powerful flap of the wine thunder wings on his back, Han Li vanished from the spot in a silver arc of light. Bai Mengxian had already witnessed Han Li's wine thunder wings, instant movement ability within illusions before. This woman dared not underestimate him in the slightest. As for those for blurry, clone-like phantoms, she couldn't immediately tell if they were clones or mere illusionary arts, but she absolutely would not let them get close easily. Without a second thought, the woman flicked her fair fingers. With a few whooshes, for streaks of golden light flashed and shot through the 4 phantoms. They were 4 unknown, prism-shaped treasures. Then, the woman's figure blurred, and in the next moment, she appeared on the giant rock below, standing shoulder to shoulder with Master Han Li. Then, with a grave expression, Bai Mengxian formed a hand seal. A layer of white ice flame suddenly appeared on her body. Then, prompted by the incantation, the white flame instantly condensed, forming a jade white iceberg that protected both herself and Master Han Li inside. Then, the woman raised both her hands, and clumps of silver threads shot out from her palms, and once again formed a dense, crisscrossing pattern in midair. In an instant, it transformed into a circular net, trapping the woman inside. Surprisingly, she was just like that middle-aged man in green. She wasn't trying to attack, but was only trying to protect herself. Clearly, the woman had completely lost any thought of fighting Han Li alone. She just wanted to stall until Master Han Li finished casting his spell, and then use the power of the Xuanyu Cave to destroy this great enemy, who was far more terrifying than Yun Bu. The 4 golden threads moved with incredible speed, striking the 4 cyan shadows in a flash. As a result, 3 of them were pierced straight through. Only one of them shifted its body slightly, and bizarrely dodged the golden thread with a flicker. Ignoring it completely, it charged straight for Master Han Li. At this moment, the nimble figure had revealed its true form. It was a man in green robes, a middle-aged man with an ordinary face. He didn't reveal a single trace of his aura. His movements were erratic and unpredictable, approaching like a phantom. That humanoid puppet, which Han Li had mixed in among the illusions, was meant to deliver a devastating blow to his opponent. Although Han Li didn't know what kind of secret technique Master Han Li was casting over there, the mere sight of the white Killen illusion, condensing and appearing above his head, was anything but ordinary. Although he was confident that, even if all the cultivators in the cave attacked him at once, they would be completely unable to harm him, but he would never just stand by and watch his opponent successfully cast the spell. So, without a moment's hesitation, he unleashed 2 of his deadliest moves, the Bai Mengxian's arrow from the giant soldier, and the humanoid puppet that was indistinguishable from a real person, was instantly alarmed. He had no time to wonder why. A strange cultivator had suddenly appeared in the cave. He hastily pointed at the 4 golden rays in the distance. Instantly, after these golden lights swirled around, this golden light immediately shot towards the back of the humanoid puppet. But the humanoid puppet completely ignored what was behind it, the incoming 3-wheeled cones. Instead, with a flip of one hand, a small bow suddenly appeared in its hand, one enveloped in scarlet flames. It raised its hand, aimed at the giant soldier opposite it, and fired straight ahead. A loud rumbling sound echoed. Countless fire arrows pierced densely through the air. Nearly half the sky was covered in a crimson color. An intensely hot aura instantly spread out. The arrows from the thunderfire bow were definitely no weaker than a top-tier ancient magical treasure. Finally, at this moment, it completely revealed its true power. Inside the giant soldier, Bai Mengxian's pupils couldn't help but shrink. Seeing this strange cultivator, completely disregarding the attack from behind, her heart instantly hardened with resolve. At once, she urged the 4 golden rays on, making them accelerate. As long as she could kill this person, she figured the attack before her would resolve itself. Of course, this woman hadn't forgotten about Han Li, who had just vanished using lightning evasion. The divine sense of a mid-stage cultivator had already been released, covering everything within a 30-jong radius, to prevent a successful sneak attack from her opponent. But a scene that shocked her appeared right after. Those 4 golden rays did indeed, solidly, strike the back of the strange cultivator, but a 5-colored light suddenly emerged from its body. For booming sounds erupted, the fluorescent glow and golden rays instantly intertwined. But this cultivator, shrouded in the 5-colored light, only swayed slightly, and then acted as if nothing had happened. Those for three-wheeled cone artifacts were actually completely unable to pierce that strange layer of light. Bai Mingxin's heart leapt in shock. The sky full of fire arrows arrived before the giant soldier, and struck fiercely against its banner. A loud rumbling sound erupted. Countless crimson flames rolled and boiled on the surface of the giant ice. They then transformed into searing clouds of fire, as if this block of ice had been instantly plunged into a sea of flames. Bai Mingxin's bright eyes stared at the clouds of fire outside the ice. There was no trace of panic on her face. She was very clear that although these fire clouds were powerful, they were absolutely no match for the defense she and Han Jian had created. Indeed, just as she had expected, although the crimson flames churned violently, all they could do was make the surface of the giant ice flash with a faint white light. It appeared to be completely unharmed. A glint flashed in Bai Mingxin's eyes, and a self-satisfied smile couldn't help but appear on her lips. But just at this moment, a clap of thunder echoed from a short distance behind the giant ice. An arc of silver lightning materialized there. Following that, a figure shrouded in purple flames flashed into view within the silver arc, and without any hesitation, lunged towards the ice. This person was, of course, using the thunder escape technique. It was Han Li, who had stealthily moved behind the woman. He used the humanoid puppet to draw Bai Mingxin's attention, while he himself suddenly closed in to strike. Bai Mingxin had already been paying close attention to the nearby movements. The moment Han Li's figure appeared, she immediately sensed him. Without turning her head, she instantly reached back and grabbed at the empty air. A translucent, crystal-like hand immediately appeared outside the giant ice, grabbing directly down at Han Li. She didn't expect this technique to actually defeat her enemy. She only wanted to temporarily block Han Li's approach. However, Han Li didn't even glance at the giant hand above his head. With a blank expression, he simply flicked his sleeve. Instantly, a golden sword shot out from within it. After a brilliant flash, the hand was cleaved in two. Han Li's advance wasn't delayed for even a moment. He instantly rushed right up to the giant block of ice. His body erupted in surging purple flames. An unbelievable scene unfolded. His flexible body twisted just slightly, and his entire being seemed to become formless, instantly seeping into the block of ice. Then, after a few flickers, he bizarrely phased through the giant soldier, appearing before Bai Mingxin and Sage Han Li, and in the place where he passed through, an ice tunnel, about 10 feet in diameter, was now clearly visible. It seems that while the purple Luo raging fire was not a flashy technique, when it came to sheer power, it was still more than a notch above Bai Mingxin's cold flame. With Han Li channeling all his power, he passed through this defense like a phantom. Suddenly before him was that circular silver net. Bai Mingxin had already turned around. She was shocked at the sight. With a sharp cry, she suddenly formed a hand seal and shouted. The word retract, as the net burst with a brilliant light. Every silver thread contracted towards the center. Instantly, all the gaps disappeared. A massive, shimmering silver sphere appeared right in front of Han Li. Han Li's expression hardened, but he immediately followed it with a cold smirk. A three-colored light shone brilliantly. After twirling the fan in his hand, its size exploded, growing to 10 feet across. At the same time, he aimed it at the silver sphere before him, and gave it a gentle wave. With a whoosh, a violent pillar of three-colored fire erupted forth. Gold, silver, and red runes swirled within the crimson blaze. Flashing endlessly, it blasted directly against the silver sphere. It was unknown what kind of rare treasure this silver sphere was. Faced with the three-flame fan, a replicated spirit treasure, it began to hum loudly, unleashing a dazzling silver light that clashed against the three-colored flames. For a moment, it still held the flames back. Although the treasure immediately showed signs of strain, it wasn't instantly frozen through and dissolved. Han Li frowned, but his expression quickly relaxed. That last attack only used a sliver of magical power injected into the fan. The three-leaf fan. It had only unleashed about 10% of its usual might. So, while the result was a bit unexpected, it was nowhere near enough to truly surprise him. At almost the exact same time, Han Li made a move with one hand. He brought a previously prepared jade bottle to his lips, and in a flash, dripped in a single drop of 10,000-year spirit liquid. Then, he stopped holding back his magical power. A massive amount of it was furiously poured into the fan. The tricolored fan began to tremble. It let out a crisp, pleasant chime. A tricolored firebird gracefully flew out from the fan, riding the pillar of fire, and pounced straight towards the opposing sphere. but Han Li had already unfurled the wind and thunder wings on his back again. Almost at the same instant, the tricolored light exploded. He vanished from his spot amidst a clap of thunder. The next moment, he teleported, reappearing somewhere over 30 zhang away. Han Li's figure materialized in a flash of fluorescent light. He raised his head and looked back at his original position. He saw the giant gold and silver block of ice, completely enveloped by the tricolored light, and it was rapidly melting into nothing. As for the silver sphere inside it, being at the very center of the radiance, it disintegrated almost instantly at the moment of the explosion, vanishing without a trace. Seeing this, Han Li's face showed no hint of joy whatsoever. On the contrary, his pupils constricted slightly. His 5 fingers instantly tightened their grip on the 3-leaf fan, because after the silver sphere vanished, a blue ice flood dragon, several zhang in length, had appeared in its place. The scales on the front half of this dragon were translucent and crystalline, and it bared its fangs and brandished its claws. But its rear half was shaped like a viscous blue liquid. Its tail appeared directly inside a small cauldron. It seemed to be a spirit creature released from the magnetic cauldron. This small cauldron floated in front of revered Master Han Li. It was the other light blue cauldron. The blue flood dragon coiled and contracted, protecting Bai Mingchen and revered Master Han Li within it. Although under the 3-colored aura, the blue flood dragon's body was also melting and disappearing. In a flash, most of it was gone. But at this moment, the power of the 3-colored aura was finally exhausted. With a flicker, it vanished into thin air. Relying on the power of this flood dragon, revered Master Han Li was actually unharmed by the might of the 3-leaf fan. So this is that life attribute spirit fan, truly worthy of being an imitation spirit treasure. Its power is indeed immense. In terms of power alone, it should already be above my Qianlin cauldron. A faint voice came from the motionless, revered Master Hainai, who had been chanting incantations. As soon as he spoke, a ball of deep blue flame shot out from his mouth. It instantly attached itself to the blue flood dragon. The blue flame flowed unceasingly along the dragon's body. The flood dragon let out a long cry. Its damaged body, after the blue flame flashed past, was instantly restored to its original state. Then, with a pair of jade green eyes, it glared fiercely at Han Li. Seeing this scene, a strange expression appeared on Han Li's face. It seemed to be a bit mocking, and also a bit of a cold sneer. Revered Master Han Li was taken aback. Before he could understand what was happening, suddenly, in the empty space behind him, a faint, ethereal, and bizarre shadow appeared and immediately lunged forward. One hand, shining with a fluorescent light, stabbed straight towards revered Master Han Li's back like a sharp blade. With the other hand, he summoned a small silver shield, which immediately transformed into a curtain of silver light, swooping down to envelop Bai Mingchen. The entire sequence of movements was silent and without a trace, just like a gentle breeze blowing past, making it completely undetectable to ordinary cultivators. It was precisely Han Li's humanoid puppet. Under the cover of the fiery sky and Han Li's attack, it had stealthily crept to this location. Bai Mingchen clearly hadn't noticed the ambush behind her, when a fluorescent light flashed before her eyes, and she was completely trapped within the silver screen. She finally turned pale with shock. She hastily formed a hand seal. A layer of white flame instantly appeared, and her entire body then transformed into countless fist-sized fireballs, shooting towards the surrounding silver screen. For a moment, thunderous roars erupted within the light barrier, but the surface of the silver screen would sometimes become incredibly thick, and at other times, as smooth as a mirror. When the white fireballs struck it, they were either forcefully blocked, or deflected right back. It was clear this woman couldn't escape immediately. As for Han Li, being a grand cultivator who had 1 foot, practically in the 7th level of the spirit transformation stage, he was naturally on a level Bai Mingchen couldn't compare to. Therefore, the moment the humanoid puppet appeared, this great elder, relying on his powerful spiritual sense, had already sensed that something was wrong. He was startled. He had no time to command that blue serpent to attack the enemy. He could only will it with a thought, causing a suit of golden battle armor to materialize around his body. It shimmered with an ancient, spiritual light. At the same time, he moved his body, trying to dodge the humanoid puppet's lightning-fast strike, but the humanoid puppet, already under Han Li's full control, was operating at full power. As its form flickered, it stuck to him like a shadow, and because the elder was busy forming hand seals, his movements were naturally a bit slower. As a result, with a dull thud, that glittering silver palm struck the elder's shoulder. Silver and golden light intertwined and flashed. The humanoid puppet was primarily made of astral silver, with its palm refined from other rare materials. Its power was definitely no weaker than an ordinary projectile magic treasure, not by a long shot, but striking the golden armor, it only stirred up a ripple like golden shimmer, and was immediately repelled. However, the concentrated force still sent this late nascent soul stage great cultivator stumbling backward. He swayed several times, but Senior Han Li, on the contrary, felt greatly relieved. The spiritual power in his body immediately began to flow. He was about to forcibly stop the grand technique in his hands, to free up his magic power to deal with the enemy. Although this grand technique was not yet complete, it could already be wielded. The profound cold cha that was more than halfway gathered should be enough to eliminate the great enemy before him. However, just as Senior Han Li's hand seals began to change, the humanoid puppet's other palm also flashed, striking the other shoulder like lightning. Naturally, it was also ineffective. Blocked by the golden battle armor, Senior Han Li was stunned. Just as his thoughts raced, wondering why the opponent would do this, the puppet's two palms suddenly burst with brilliant silver light. In an instant, they transformed into two exceptionally sharp silver hooks. With a slight movement, they latched onto Senior Han Li's shoulders. Although they were blocked by the golden battle armor, Senior Han Li's body was suddenly unable to move freely, and at almost the same time, a spiritual light flashed above Senior Han Li's head. A short black dagger appeared bizarrely, trembled slightly, and plunged downwards toward this great elder's crown. It was so fast that it reached his head in an instant. At this moment, Senior Han Li was being held by the humanoid puppet's pair of silver hooks, which latched tightly onto the shell of his golden battle armor. He was completely unable to move. In that single instant, Master Han Li's soul nearly flew from his body. He could no longer afford to slowly mobilize the spiritual power in his body. He hurriedly threw his head back, and blood rushed to his face. He opened his mouth and spat out a mist of blood to intercept it. This mist of blood was actually formed from a mouthful of Master Han Li's essence blood. The spiritual power it contained was truly extraordinary. When it collided with the black dagger, flashes of blood-red light and black light instantly intertwined and flickered. It caused the light of the demonic flying dagger to dim, forcing it to a halt for a moment. The spiritual light of the golden battle armor on Master Han Li flickered, on the verge of dispersing and vanishing, which would allow him to regain his freedom of movement and escape this calamity. At the same time, the nearby blue ice Zhao dragon, also urged on by his magic from a distance, let out a roar from its mouth, and suddenly pounced towards the distant Han Li. Before it could even get close to Han Li, the Zhao dragon opened its mouth, and a pillar of blue light shot out. This late nascent soul stage great cultivator believed that as long as he could slightly slow down Han Li's attack, he could use the melody plate to activate the cave's cold cha, which would be enough to immediately turn the tables and kill his opponent completely. But just at that moment, a silver lotus several feet wide mysteriously appeared beneath Master Han Li's feet. As it spun rapidly, it radiated a brilliant fluorescent light. The sound of Sanskrit hymns and Buddhist chants drifted out from the lotus. Master Han Li's heart trembled. He instantly felt his body become incredibly heavy, unable to move even an inch. At the same time, he lost control over most of the spiritual power in his body. The blood mist that was originally blocking the black dagger instantly lost more than half of its power. With a flash from the demonic marrow flying dagger, it shattered the blood mist to pieces. Then, with nothing left to stop it, it flashed downwards. Reverend Han Li was aghast. A blood-curdling scream suddenly erupted from his mouth. This great elder, this little Jigong, truly miscalculated. I don't know what kind of body refinement technique he cultivated, but as my vision blurred, the flying dagger flashed. It was supposed to pierce the crown of his head, but his neck suddenly twisted to one side in an unbelievable way. Like a wisp of mist, it stretched several inches in an instant. It was truly bizarre beyond compare. With a flash of black light, the flying dagger took Reverend Han Li's neck and a small portion of his upper body, slicing them clean off. A head tumbled and rolled to the ground. The golden battle armor that had materialized around his body, as well as the blue ice Zhao in the distance, instantly disintegrated and vanished. Seeing this, Han Li couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. But this hint of a smile had just appeared on his lips, when it suddenly froze. That head, which had rolled to the ground, suddenly erupted with a shocking aura. It enveloped the head, and after circling once, it shot straight towards the Killing Phantom above. Witnessing such a strange scene, Han Li was naturally startled, but he immediately understood what was happening. The opponent's primordial spirit was actually hidden inside the head. His expression turned grim, and a layer of faint green light appeared on his face. He uttered a single word from his mouth, "Break." The voice wasn't loud, but when that head heard it, it felt as if its very soul was being viciously stabbed by a sharp ball. A wave of tearing, excruciating pain washed over it. The head instantly let out a shrill, mournful scream. Traces of blood appeared from its ears and nose at the same time. Without the support of a body, and with his vital energy severely damaged, Reverend Han Li, facing the full force of Han Li's spiritual attack, was surprisingly this vulnerable. The head swayed in the air. Its rapt blue eyes were shaking nonstop. Just then, that black short blade flashed again, appearing above Taoist Master Han Li's head. As a look of terror filled the head's face, the short blade bizarrely vanished. The next moment, it reappeared on the other side of the head. A thin line of blood appeared down the middle of the head's face, and it grew wider and wider. Almost at the same time, a clap of thunder sounded. Han Li, standing amidst a silver arc, bizarrely appeared next to the head. From a distance, holding his staff upright, he rubbed his hands together without a word, and raised them at the same time. A loud crackle erupted. A giant electric net fell down upon the head. The head split in two from the middle. A ball of blue light, enveloping Taoist Master Han Li's nascent soul, shot out from within. This nascent soul opened its small mouth, and a shimmering blue flying sword was spat out. The flying sword grew frantically, and in the blink of an eye, it became over 10 feet in size. It mercilessly shot towards the golden net to strike. Before the sword had even truly struck, the sharp golden light from it already sent the golden net shaking violently. Han Li's expression changed slightly. With a thought, the power jetting from his hands caused the golden arc to grow several sizes larger. After a loud bang, the blue gleam and the golden light crashed into each other. That blue giant sword's power was indeed extraordinary. After a few frantic slashes, it forcefully tore an opening in the golden net, although it was only about a foot wide. For the nascent soul following close behind, it was more than enough. The nascent soul formed a hand seal, and with a whoosh, its figure vanished on the spot, reappearing a dozen feet outside the golden net. A flash of blue light. This nascent soul reappeared. He had actually used an instantaneous movement technique, escaping in a split second. The nascent soul wore an expression of having just survived a disaster. He waved his small, tender white hands at the giant sword behind him, commanding the blue flying sword. Its body suddenly shrank, trying to fly out through the gap along with him. A maroon glint flashed in Han Ling's eyes. With a cold snort, she formed a hand seal, and a loud crackling erupted from the nearby golden net. It simultaneously shrank. The gap that had just appeared vanished in the blink of an eye. At the same time, countless golden arcs swarmed toward the blue sword, enveloping it in one dense layer after another. The flying sword inside, even though it had been trained with Han Li Shangren for many years, and was far superior to ordinary magic treasures, under the assault of so many golden arcs, amidst the sounds of explosions, it was already beginning to falter. Its spiritual light flickered on and off. Ultimately, it was completely engulfed by the golden light. Meanwhile, Han Li waved a single hand, and the Zushan cauldron appeared before him. With a flick of his hand, a strand of green silk shot out from the top of the cauldron, heading for Han Li Shangren's nascent soul over 10 zhang away, and swept towards it. Han Li Shangren, who was just about to retrieve his life-bound magic treasure, was greatly alarmed when he saw this. He cast one last, reluctant look at his flying sword, and could only grit his teeth. A blue light flashed around his body, and he disappeared again. A moment later, the nascent soul appeared on the other side of the barrier, next to the small cauldron. This time, he hesitated slightly before turning his head to look back. His gaze fell upon the mass at his original location, upon the Killing illusion. Although his spell had been forcibly interrupted, and his own physical body had been destroyed, the melody plate embedded deep within the Killing, it was still flickering with spiritual light, completely unaffected. But at this moment, a faint, clear shadow floated beside the Killing illusion, staring at the nascent soul with a cold gaze, utterly devoid of any emotion. The moment Venerable Han Li's eyes met its, he shivered uncontrollably. His heart sank, and the last shred of hope was completely extinguished. With a whoosh, the nascent soul no longer hesitated and plunged towards the cauldron, disappearing inside without a trace. Then, the small cauldron let out a strange cry, and suddenly shot into the air on its own. After several flashes, it appeared at the tunnel leading to the cave entrance. Pankingxi was completely unable to give chase. Her consecutive attacks against the nascent soul all disintegrated and vanished midway. Han Li had already trapped that flying sword with his divine devilbane lightning. Watching the nascent soul flee into the distance, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. With a rumble of thunder from behind him, he transformed into an arc of silver light and shot off in pursuit of the nascent soul. Venerable Han Li, of course, would not stay put and wait for Han Li to catch up. He urged the cauldron to transform into a ball of blue light and shoot towards the sky. After 2 more teleports, it was already nearing the entrance, but Han Li was still behind it, about 70 to 80 zhang away. A wave of relief washed over the great elder of the small perfection palace, just as he was about to teleport one last time, and use the azure cauldron to force open the entrance. From a nearby overhanging rock formation, several streaks of cold light suddenly shot out, coiling straight towards the cauldron. Venerable Han Li was dismissive of these wisps of cold che. The blue flames on the small cauldron flared slightly, about to bat the cold light away. But at that very moment, the situation changed abruptly. In the blink of an eye, the color of these few wisps of melodic cold che changed drastically. From a hazy white glow, they instantly transformed into crimson flames. They made contact with the pressing blue light coming from the cauldron above, and unexpectedly merged into the blue radiance, completely ignoring the nature of this ice flame. Then, with another flash, it shot into the small cauldron with the speed of a thunderclap. The blue cauldron trembled for a moment, immediately followed by Reverend Han Li's exceptionally shocked and furious roar. 2 strange radiances, blue and crimson, suddenly appeared on the cauldron. Then, they intertwined, letting out a thunderous, cracking sound. The cauldron's spiritual light flared brilliantly, and it began to expand wildly as it shook. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a blue object several feet in size. The 2 colored light flames on the cauldron suddenly split in 2, each occupying one half of the cauldron. Reverend Han Li's nascent soul appeared within the blue light flame. He looked towards the opposite side, both shocked and enraged. Within the crimson flame, a fist-sized fire duck impressively appeared. It let out a few low chirps from its beak, with a completely carefree demeanor. At this critical moment, between life and death, Reverend Han Li naturally couldn't continue the stalemate. The nascent soul let out a sharp cry from its mouth. Immediately, the blue light flame fiercely lunged forward, but the fire duck, completely unconcerned, waved a single wing. The crimson flames surrounding it swept forward in response. The light between the two flared brilliantly. A thunderous roar erupted, incredibly intense. As for that fire duck, it was precisely what that wisp of true fire of Supremian had transformed into. This wisp of true fire had already gained initial sentience. It had been summoned out of the formation by Han Li at some unknown time. It had been lying in ambush quietly at the cave entrance, and relying on the past few days, it used the melodic cold che it had devoured as cover to transform and launch a surprise attack, and it had succeeded in one go. Although because the amount of the true fire of Supremian was itself scarce, it couldn't immediately gain control of the cauldron. But Reverend Han Li's nascent soul was similarly unable to do anything about the true fire of Supremian. How? I can't control this cauldron to escape. And just then, Han Li, from below, spared no magic as he rushed it. He arrived near the small cauldron. The nascent soul within Lanian couldn't retrieve its sword. Seeing the cauldron before it, a golden hue instantly appeared on its face. Suddenly, a ball of blue light shot out from the cauldron's top, fleeing high into the sky. The nascent soul had actually abandoned the fight for the cauldron, choosing to flee on its own. Seeing this, a strange look flashed across Han Li's face. But then, without hesitation, he waved one hand. A small, jade-green ruler materialized in his hand. Han Li uttered a few soft incantations. At the same time, a 7-colored Buddhist light flashed from his hand. The small jade-green ruler erupted with a brilliant green light. With a slight tremble, it vanished from his hand. But in the next moment, it suddenly appeared above Han Li's nascent soul. The nascent soul was horrified to see this. Its small hands formed a magical seal, about to teleport away again. But the green ruler above it trembled slightly, and from it emerged a silver lotus flower the size of a bowl. The lotus inverted and began to spin. The sound of Buddhist chanting faintly drifted from it. At the same time, a curtain of 7-colored light erupted from the lotus. The nascent soul felt the Buddhist light envelop its body. Instantly, its true essence froze, and the nascent soul found itself unable to move. The nascent soul's small face immediately turned ashen. Silver arcs of lightning flashed in the air. Han Li's figure materialized out of the void. and gazed down coldly. This green ruler was, of course, the Balan ruler that Han Li had obtained back then. Although this spirit treasure had only been refined to the first level of the treasure connection art, its power was truly astonishing. When it came to fighting enemies, its power seemed to even surpass that of the Void Heaven Cauldron. Of course, being able to immobilize a nascent soul like this, late-stage Great Cultivator, of course, this was mostly because the opponent was only left with their nascent soul. Previously, in an attempt to control the Chilling Che within the profound Jade Cave, they had used some incredibly powerful secret technique. This had already consumed most of their mana and spiritual energy. Otherwise, for a late-stage cultivator, whose nascent soul was already exceptionally stable and condensed, it would have been impossible to succeed so easily. Although he had used the green ruler to catch the opponent off guard, Han Li didn't waste any time with words. He immediately raised one hand, spreading his 5 fingers. A golden light flickered at each of his fingertips. Amidst a low rumble of thunder, 5 golden arcs shot out, transforming into 5 golden serpents, each as thick as a thumb. They bit down on the nascent soul within the Buddha light. Then, after circling once, they transformed again into several golden chains, instantly binding the nascent soul tightly in place. Han Li's hands didn't stop moving. With a wave of his embroidered robe, several sealing talismans flew out. Immediately, multicolored spiritual lights began to flash across the nascent soul's body. Next, he slapped his storage pouch with one hand. After flipping his palm over, a dozen or so silver needles appeared in his palm. Streaks of silver light flashed momentarily. These silver needle artifacts plunged into all the vital points of the nascent soul's body. The senior's nascent soul body suddenly convulsed. Immediately, the spiritual light in its eyes dimmed. Seeing this, Han Li finally felt truly at ease. After clapping the dust off his hands, a faint, unreadable smile appeared on his face. He watched as Han Li retracted the small green ruler and lightly floated down in front of him. The nascent soul revealed a venomous expression. Its gaze was exceptionally icy as it stared at Han Li. Its lips were tightly shut. Clearly, this grand elder of the small extremity palace knew very well that since the fight between them had reached this point, any talk of begging for mercy would only be bringing humiliation upon himself. His only regret was probably that he didn't act sooner, before he was suppressed. He should have used a secret art to self-destruct his nascent soul. Now, he had been completely stopped by Han Li. Trying to self-destruct his nascent soul now was completely out of the question. Han Li looked at the restrained nascent soul of revered Han Li. After a faint smile, he didn't say another word. Instead, with a flick of his elegant robe, a small, jade-green bottle flew out. In a flash, it was right above the nascent soul's head. Han Li lightly tapped the bottle, and its mouth inverted. White light swirled inside it nonstop. A jet of rosy light shot out and swept up revered Han Li's nascent soul. It was sucked into the bottle. Immediately, Han Li raised his hand and beckoned to the distant barrier's peak. That wisp of supreme true fire immediately enveloped the female cauldron and shot over. In a flash, it disappeared into his sleeve without a trace. Only then did Han Li put away the green bottle artifact. He transformed into a streak of cyan light and descended. A moment later, with a flash of cyan light, Han Li's figure reappeared above the pile of rubble. His gaze swept the area, and his brows furrowed slightly. Bai Mingchen, who was originally trapped in the silver mist, was now lying prone on a pile of crushed rock at the edge of the rubble. Blood was flowing freely from her body. Her lower abdomen had been pierced through, leaving a large hole the size of a bowl. She had already become a corpse. Moreover, the vital essence and blood in her body were completely gone, a clear sign that her nascent soul had left her body. Looking up at the sky, next to the Killen Phantom, the puppet stood motionless. It was as if from the moment Han Li left until now, it hadn't moved a single step. But in front of it, the round steel shield and the marrow-grinding flying knife were floating, both pulsing with a faint spiritual light. About 40 to 50 zhang away, 5 giant humanoid skeletons, swaying, they stood shoulder to shoulder. The once overwhelming grayish-white demonic Che had already completely vanished. One of the skeletons was still clutching a light cyan storage pouch. The other one was toying with its hands a small ball of pitch-black light. It flickered endlessly, dimming and brightening. Han Li's brow quickly relaxed. It seemed that, with a sweep of his spiritual sense, he had connected with the divided soul within the humanoid puppet. In an instant, he understood what had happened. It turned out that the woman, Bai Mingchen, upon seeing Han Li, destroy the venerable Han Li's physical body, and then fly off in pursuit of the nascent soul, was overcome with immense terror. She actually detonated several ancient treasures without hesitation, to forcefully break through the light barrier formed by the Yuan gang shield, intending to flee. But the humanoid puppet, as Han Li was about to leave, had long been given the order not to let a single person here escape. Naturally, it mercilessly commanded the water-grinding flying daggers, and caught her by surprise, piercing through her lower abdomen, destroying the woman's physical body. Then, the woman's nascent soul shot out from her corpse, only to be attacked by the humanoid puppet with lightning and fire, and then shattered by a strike from the golden lightning bamboo miniature sword. This caused the woman to vanish from the mortal world forever. As for the middle-aged man in the green robe over there, he ultimately could not withstand the demonic puppet's assault. Even his physical body, nascent soul, and several treasures were devoured completely by this demonic puppet. Only a storage pouch was left behind, and that remnant of the extreme cold flame. Having understood what had transpired, Han Li let out a soft breath. Without a word, he beckoned to the demonic puppet in the distance. Instantly, the storage pouch and the ball of black cold flame in their hands came flying straight over. In the blink of an eye, they were in his hand. Han Li didn't examine the storage pouch closely. He casually tucked it inside his robes. The warrior became interested in that mass of black cold flame. After a moment of hesitation, Yueyu rubbed his hands together. A clap of thunder sounded. Countless fine golden arcs shot out from his hands, simultaneously wrapping around the black flame. They imprisoned this masterless black flame, transforming it into a fist-sized ball of golden threads. He slapped his storage bag with one hand. A mystic icebox radiating cold air appeared in his hand. Han Li casually tossed the ball into the box, and calmly put the box away. Then, his gaze shifted, and fell upon Bai Mengxin's corpse. After a moment of contemplation, Han Li suddenly flicked his elegant sleeve. A crimson fireball shot out. With a poof sound, the corpse was instantly engulfed in raging flames. But immediately, a mass of white light flame erupted from the corpse. After churning for a moment, it swept away and extinguished the surrounding flames. Then it condensed again into a ball of pure white fire, attempting to re-enter the corpse. This was the Phoenix Cry ice flame that Bai Mengxin cultivated. Indeed, the woman's primordial spirit had already been extinguished, so this residual, hungry cold flame tried to return to the corpse. But Han Li, who was already prepared, how could he let this cold flame retreat again? He closed his 5 fingers on one hand, and made a grasping motion in the air towards the flame. Instantly, a large hand formed from purple apex flames, materialized in the air above the cold flame. It swooped down like lightning, grabbing the mass of white flame in its grasp. The large hand immediately flew back. Meanwhile, Han Li made another grasping motion with one hand. The storage bag on the corpse flew up into the air, and shot into his hand as well. As for this mass of Phoenix Cry ice flame, Han Li naturally used the same method, using the divine Devilbane lightning to imprison it. Then he stored it away in the mystic ice box. Although this cold flame, due to its master's death, had mostly scattered and disappeared, what remained was its very essence. If I could also absorb it for my own use, or merge it into this logic fire, its power would undoubtedly multiply. But now is obviously not the time to experiment. Finally, Han Li specifically dealt with one more thing. The silk of Master Han Li. What surprised Han Li somewhat was that the pair of golden wind that had made her wary were surprisingly not in the storage pouch on its corpse. This, Han Li found rather surprising, although he didn't know what was going on. Han Li took the opponent's storage pouch. He couldn't be bothered to dwell on the matter. After finishing all this, Han Li then looked at the Killing Phantom in the air, and that piece of profound jade. A solemn expression appeared on his face as he looked. Although this phantom was just a lifeless object, it contained an astonishing amount of spiritual power within its body. It was somewhat strange. It seemed to be formed from the condensation of some kind of cold cha, yet it also seemed to be materialized from pure crystal. He was actually unable to confidently identify its true composition. After a moment's hesitation, he slowly raised a hand. A golden light flashed at his fingertip, and he was about to release a stream of sword cha to test this phantom. But just at that moment, a flash of fire suddenly appeared from his sleeve. A crimson flame shot out, and with a flash, it directly entered the Killing Phantom in the air. Then, with a flash of red light, it transformed into a fire duck. It was precisely the spirit entity transformed from that wisp of true lunar fire. Seeing this fire duck moving about leisurely inside the Killing's body, with the feathers all over its body flashing with red light. It was actually taking the white che that formed the phantom all around it, and slowly absorbing it into its body. Han Li's expression shifted. After lowering his arm and pondering for a moment, he actually turned away, no longer paying attention to the fire duck's actions, and instead looked towards a patch of five-colored light in the distance. Within that tranquil area, the roaring sound had weakened slightly, but it hadn't stopped for a single moment. The turtle-robed monk and that old Jew appeared to still be in the middle of a fierce battle. It seemed that due to the cover of the barrier, these two hadn't realized the battle outside had already ended. They would never have imagined Han Li, with his mid-nascent soul stage cultivation, could single-handedly crush a great cultivator, and to other cultivators of the same rank. From the moment they started fighting, only the time it takes to drink a cup of tea had passed. A clear light emanated from Han Li's body, and he transformed into an azure-red streak of light, shooting out. In an instant, he was above the five-colored light mist. He glanced down, and, for a moment, a cold smile appeared on his face. With a thought, the humanoid puppet and the fearless humanoid skeleton floated lightly over here. In a flash, they landed one after another behind him. At this moment, Han Li flicked his embroidered robe, and 36 small golden swords shot out from his sleeve like a school of fish. They immediately transformed into 36 streaks of golden light, circling once above his head. He continuously formed a series of incantation gestures, striking them into the sword lights. All the golden lights trembled slightly a few times, and immediately split into over 100 identical sword lights. With a whoosh, they scattered, shooting out around the light mist. But then, an astonishing scene occurred. These sword lights bizarrely vanished one by one, all of them disappearing into thin air. He had deployed a grand sword formation, bringing this entire area under the control of the formation. Only then did Han Li suddenly raise a single hand. A streak of yellow light shot out from his palm. After circling once above the mist, it transformed into a demon-subduing staff, shimmering with a faint yellow light. Expressionless, he closed his eyes. He formed a hand seal, and the low sound of an incantation began to emanate from his lips, began to activate his magical treasure. The solid-looking demon-subduing staff trembled slightly. Then, amidst a blinding yellow light, its size began to grow wildly. In almost the blink of an eye, the treasure transformed into a colossal object as thick as a large water vat. At this moment, Han Li stopped chanting the incantation and opened his eyes with a calm expression. He glanced down at the massive object below, then rubbed his hands together indifferently. A small ball of 7-colored Buddhist light appeared in his hands. He held it up with one hand. This ball of Buddhist light, then flicked it with the back of his hand. The ball of Buddhist light immediately shot out, and in a flash, struck the demon-subduing staff. The treasure, which was originally emitting yellow light, suddenly gained another layer on its surface, a shimmering, 7-colored light. At the same time, the treasure began to emit a humming sound, deep and solemn like a Buddhist chant. Go! Han Li let out a low shout, and pointed a single hand at the demon-subduing staff. Instantly, the gigantic demon-subduing staff plummeted down fiercely without any hesitation, striking right on top of the light mist below. A massive sound, as if the heavens were collapsing and the earth was splitting, rang out. A rumbling sound echoed through almost the entire underground cavern. The 5-colored light barrier below only managed to resist with great difficulty. Under the immense power of the demon-subduing staff, it shattered inch by inch. The fragments of the light barrier filled the air, turning into spakes of spiritual light, before scattering and disappearing completely. Before he could get a clear look at the situation inside, Han Li's expression became momentarily stunned. Then, a peculiar expression appeared on his face. I never thought you two fellow Taoists were just putting on an act. How about you let me, Han, get involved as well? Otherwise, with you two having no one to act against, wouldn't it be a bit of a pity? Han Li's expression returned to normal in an instant. He spoke faintly towards the light mist below, where the gray-robed monk and the old woman were standing close to each other. On just 2 large rocks in the valley, sat 2 cultivators meditating with their eyes tightly shut, and in the empty space between them was a strange, mouse-like spirit beast. It was the size of a fist, but its belly was bulging. It swelled and contracted, letting out a series of booming, explosive sounds. It sounded as if the cultivators with considerable power were engaged in an exceptionally fierce battle. The gray-robed monk and this lady Long weren't fighting at all. They were just using the sound from that spirit beast to deceive Han Li and the others outside the barrier. The light screen was shattered by Han Li's attack. The two people sitting cross-legged below naturally opened their eyes, for pairs of eyes stared straight at Han Li. Both of them revealed surprised expressions. And at that moment, a layer of green and yellow light screen appeared above the two of them, faintly flickering in and out of view. Although it was much smaller than the previous 5-colored light screen, it was enough to envelop the two of them, and at the center of the light screen, a translucent brocade scarf was slowly spinning nonstop, and this light screen was precisely the divine ability released by this brocade scarf. "It's you." The old woman's wrinkled face twitched. She seemed to find it hard to believe. The gray-robed monk's expression, however, was uncertain. Han Li glanced down at the brocade scarf and the newly appeared light screen. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. "It seems you to really put some thought into this. You actually used a treasure to hide your tracks." TSK. No wonder I was just puzzled. Why even my spirit eyes couldn't see through it. A mere illusionary barrier. So, you'd have been planning to play the fisherman all along, and reap the rewards. I am truly impressed. Although Han Li spoke words of admiration, his face was completely void of expression. There was even a hint of killing intent emerging from between his brows. The gray-robed monk's expression finally calmed down. After uttering a Buddhist chant, "Fellow Taoist Han, your abilities are truly vast. To think that not even the three of them, including fellow Taoist Han Li, were able to capture you. But I wonder, where are brother Han Li and the others now? Could they have left the cave on their own?" As the monk spoke, his gaze swept across the entire underground cavern. He didn't find any trace of Reverend Han Li and the other two. He couldn't help but feel shocked. It seemed he simply couldn't believe that Han Li could truly, by himself, kill the other three. Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly. First, he shook his head. Then he nodded. Finally, he let out a long sigh, but didn't say a single word. This left the two of them below feeling rather baffled. "Humph, fellow Taoist, why must you be so mysterious? If that Reverend Han Li has already left the cave, then the three of us must rush out of this place as well. Otherwise, if he summons the other cultivators from ZG Palace, the three of us will be sitting ducks." Olju couldn't hold his patience. His eyes glared. "You don't need to worry about them. I've already taken care of the three of them, for the most part. However, I did leave brother Han Li's nascent soul intact. Would you fellow Taoists like to see him one last time? After that, I can send you both on your way together." Han Li said bluntly. "Reverend Han Li was defeated by you." "Impossible. And what did you mean by that last sentence?" When Olju heard Han Li's words, his expression changed drastically, and upon hearing those final words, he flew into a rage.